All right, ladies and gentlemen, back again with another video. This time we're looking at Jubilee again. It's really late right now, but I was actually just like winding down, about to go to sleep. I was on the couch, just checking out YouTube, and then I saw Jubilee posted this video. It says taking steroids is cheating, natural versus steroid bodybuilders, and I know I got to react to this thing. So without further ado, I have no idea what this is going to be, but it's an hour and 9 minutes long. I think that Alex has his work cut out for him. Probably going to chop a lot of this thing down to make it more palatable for you, the beautiful consumer that you are. So hopefully you have a nice meal in front of you. Maybe you got the AirPods in and you're playing it on the iPhone. Maybe you're alone at Chipotle doing this. That's actually a classic place to do meal and YouTube. Let me know where you're eating your food right now, because that's how I roll. Anytime I get a meal, I'm trying to fire up YouTube. I feel like that's a distinctly male thing. Anyways, I digress. Let's get into this right now. But first, no sponsor today. I'm not going to sell you guys on anything. If you have Spotify, Apple Music, any of the streaming things, just go check my music out. One of my songs, my top song, just passed 500,000 streams. So this thing is going really well. If you guys kind of like Americana style music, slightly country, slightly blues, a little bit of folk, if you like any of that stuff and you want to listen to some new music, go check it out. Search Tellender on any of those streaming sites. It would mean the world to me. Okay, let's get into the video.
Proudest moment is the physique that I've built.
Shane, one of the ultimate steroid degens, bro. Like, not a single virtuous quality about him. Yeah, I don't know. That's fucking interesting.
My best accomplishment, obviously, getting an IFBB Pro card. My name is Eric Janicki. You guys might remember me from the Fit.
So Eric, I made a video. I forget. I think it was Fit versus Fat Jubilee, the one he's talking about. And I made a video on it. And Eric had like some really legit takes. He seemed to be very moderate with the way that he talked about it. And he appreciated that, so he DM'd me. We both follow each other now. I want to link up with him, do a workout, maybe chat with him or something like that. He seems like a really cool dude. Here we go.
Steroids are dangerous and should not be normalized in fitness.
There's somebody from the steroid
side.
So
for me, I am a natural bodybuilder, and I don't really like it when I see guys that take steroids and then they call themselves natural. For that reason, basically feel like they're cheating. Once you normalize it, then it gives guys a reason to take those steroids and then come and compete in an organization that they shouldn't be competing.
That's the least of my worries, right? If I was going to argue that maybe they shouldn't be normalized, which I have before, I don't know the answer. You guys, I'll just kind of lay out what I've talked about on this channel so many times, is that the normalization of steroids, kind of destigmatizing it, is not the answer that I think people think it is. It kind of creates a whole new batch of issues that I don't know that we're prepared to deal with. So let's keep going here.
I think steroid culture is what is corrupting the industry more than anything else. And there are many health risks that are not spoken about enough, and that's one of the biggest problems.
So I'm just going to disagree right away, because I think they're like almost the first thing that people mention, but the way that they mention them is somewhat tongue in cheek. It's kind of like, yeah, you get the chance of gyno, bald. You can go bald. It can have some mental side effects. It can this. We all know, like, your testicles get smaller. Like, we know what testosterone or androgens are going to do to you. And if you do any research whatsoever, the first thing you notice is the side effects. Just like we know what's predominantly healthy food and what's not healthy food. That's not the issue, I think, here. So yeah, I'm going to disagree with that. But I want to add in here too, because he briefly mentions, which we're not going to show, but briefly mentions the bodybuilders who are dying. And yes, the cause is steroids. Again, this is not my strength of position here when we say that normalizing steroids is dangerous. I like to think of a more like global concept of normalization. Dallas McCarver and these guys who are dying from grams and grams of gear are not necessarily they're not as effective as kind of trying to make some sort of cultural shift, which even as I say it, making a cultural shift against like the stigmatization of steroids, I don't think it'll ever happen. I feel like Pandora is already out of the box. TRT is wildly legal to everyone, as we've seen with Alex Eubank, who can just walk in, get a test within 20 minutes. That test says you're below the limit and you can get injected right there. And it's your decision and you can pay for it right out of your pocket. I feel like that's not going to change. So there needs to be like a further discussion.
Steroids are dangerous. It's very easy for any of us jump in and start it without knowing a thing about it. But I agree it's dangerous. You shouldn't just take something that you don't know anything about.
All right, so I think you guys have a misconception of steroid use and then steroid abuse. A lot of what you guys were talking about is steroid abuse.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. That's exactly what I was getting at.
And steroids are definitely dangerous, but I couldn't get down with the whole thing.
Steroids are dangerous. What's a steroid? How is it dangerous? In what application?
Okay, so this is, pausing really quickly, this is Mark Laubliner, bodybuilder. He does some stuff. I've seen him around. Definitely pro steroids.
The testosterone level of a 20-year-old now, it is at the same level of a 7-year-old in the 1970s. Yeah. Testosterone being low is more dangerous than having your levels normalized via TRT.
Yeah, I mean, the low testosterone epidemic, I don't know when or if ever, like the CDC or any health organization, national health organization would ever address this and try to make any move to fix it. I don't even know what type of overhaul would have to happen. But again, the idea that we are simply going to just inject testosterone to get to normal levels, which is just never the case likely. Like it's never likely the case. In fact, I just saw a video with Peter Attia talking to Derek. And basically he was like, if my testosterone was 380, I think it actually is in Peter Attia. And then I took injections and I got up to like 500. I would say that's a non-response. And now his testosterones are higher than they should be at his age, and he's still saying it's a non-response. So what you're looking for is a super physiological amount of testosterone in your body, something that's actually beyond what naturally should occur and what would have occurred back in the 70s or the good old days when testosterone was high. And I just don't like the idea of medical intervention with this kind of, in this way. It seems too simple. It seems like a very slippery slope.
Would you all agree that in some cases, steroids are
Are
therapeutic?
not dangerous.
Mark Laubliner is trying to be smart here and just not, I don't know if he's getting the win that he thinks he is. He's just basically making people find the definitive line of when testosterone is okay or not okay to use. And yeah, we can go into that weird philosophical discussion, but the main thing that I'm like really concerned about personally is this idea that, testosterone is like this cosmetic fix now. It is this, just like Ozempic or, lip injection or lip fillers for women and all of these different procedures that were once rare that are now, commodified and easily manufactured and distributed. They're much more available. And so now we kind of mix what is therapeutic and what isn't. And just culturally, we're just so accepting of HRT and TRT. I don't want to sit here and shame people for using steroids or not using steroids or anything like that. I just continuously want to bring up the fact that like we're entering an era that like we are not ready to like manage, I don't think. That video that Jesse James West made where he's talking to teenagers taking gear, like that's happening more and more. And if you don't think that the proliferation of TRT clinics and telehealth and all of that, if you don't think that that aids that, well, then I don't know that like I agree with you. And I'm almost certain that that is the problem.
The problem is when the fitness industry takes something and they amplify it. That the young fitness influencers who are promoting copious drug use to get to their goals, it's going to get a lot of kids to do it as well.
Here's the thing.
All right. That's more like it. That's what I want to talk about. Genuinely, I'm all about that. And guess what? There's a guy to the right of you, Mark, who does just that. He's in his early 20s and he makes millions of dollars and he fucking shows himself injecting steroids.
Abusing steroids is dangerous. That doesn't mean we shouldn't normalize it. You guys are saying we shouldn't normalize steroids, it's bad. You're watching the Olympia. Those are the people that blast grams of gear. Like UFC, dangerous. NFL, dangerous. You guys all watch the NFL. Even though more people in the NFL are dying trying to get there, more kids are dying trying to get there.
Shane's coming with the heat a little bit here. But, you know, at the end there, it's like his reasoning for doing what he does, it doesn't necessarily lock in with that. Maybe he could work on that linking of what he says. But yeah, the UFC is fucking dangerous. The NFL is fucking dangerous. And the Olympia is fucking dangerous. And you're going to sit here and blame the YouTube kids for just doing what the adults have been doing? It's a good fucking point, man. It is a great point.
I have children. Young people on testosterone, it is messing you up. So the key is, by discussing it like y'all do, we're able to go and say, oh, here's the negatives from it. So as long as they're being fair and balanced with, I'm doing this, but I know I'm also doing this negative thing, I think we're in a good spot.
Wow. I don't think Mark knows that he's contradicting himself here. I don't think he gets that. I think, like, you know, earlier he goes, we have a low testosterone epidemic. Okay. So yes, injecting testosterone is going to help us. Okay. But then on the other side of his mouth, he says, we can't have kids doing testosterone. It's like, it's going to trickle down if we create this culture where the proliferation of testosterone and the usage of it is going to exist. Like, and then he says, as long as when you take it, you talk about the negative part. And I think we're in a good spot. It doesn't seem as though we are in a good spot when you say teenagers shouldn't be taking gear, but teenagers are at a higher rate than ever before.
There's also on the cigarette pack, it says you can die, but people still smoke. So
Exactly.
That gives, yeah.
which is
Whoa. 1 second here. I think cigarette smoking has gone down tremendously in America. Rarely do you walk around down the street anymore and see smoking cigarettes at the level that it used to be. Right? People still smoke even though it's going to kill them. But like, you know, the people went out of their way to be like, hey, like, we shouldn't do this. Whether it's completely warranted or not. I mean, it seems to have worked. Maybe we should have some level of that to steroids.
Cigarettes and steroids are dope. Like, you're out here getting jacked. It's all dope. Why are we pretending like it's not dope? Everyone knows it's not healthy. A good cigarette and some coffee, that's awesome.
What was that?
Saying it's cool is not necessarily promoting it.
Saying it's cool is not promoting it. It absolutely is. You're out of your fucking mind. That's all influencership is.
You say that's cool. I like what I like. I'm just gonna talk about what I enjoy.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Most of the kids can make their own decisions, right?
That's the game, is you have to grow up and make your own decisions. We can't be feeding them decisions.
Here's the thing, dude. Sometimes this decision is irreversible. Okay? Like, we don't talk enough about backup plans to taking testosterone. We don't talk enough, we don't teach kids enough. If you're going to take testosterone, if you're going to take heaps of steroids, whatever it may be, orals, injectables, whatever, there's a chance that you will never get a natural level of testosterone back. And if you want to, it's going to be very hard and it's going to be very miserable. We don't really talk about that enough. We just say, oh, once you do like a bodybuilding prep one time and you're 20 years old, you want to be a bodybuilder, you have a great physique. Here, take this drug protocol. It's at least a half a gram of test, right? 500 milligrams of test is like the base level. Then a bunch of compounds on top of that. And if you do that for 12, 16, 20 weeks, then you're told to, okay, cruise, and then we'll do it for the next cycle. Or, we'll wait till the next cycle to then prep for the bodybuilding show again. You're 20 and you're 23, 24. What if you're like, I don't really want to bodybuild anymore? Oh, well, it's too late now. Your testosterone will never come back, and you'll have to be on TRT until you die. How long do you want to live? 90 years old? That'd be kind of cool. 90, 95. What if you live to 100? You're going to be injecting testosterone for 80 fucking years. So when Togi over here says you can make that decision if you want to. And someone can make their decision to be natural and follow you, and someone can make their decision to be unnatural and follow me. But one of those decisions is irreversible for the most part, unless we create a culture where we can say, hey, kids, do you want to get off steroids? Here's my journey to get off steroids, which is why, you guys, Pete Rubish is one of the lesser known figures who did this. Taking grams and grams of gear to be one of the most elite powerlifters on the planet, to then doing nothing and trying to build his natural testosterone back up again. It's one of the most admirable things I've seen on here. And I would love to see something like that, that these people discuss.
Natural bodybuilding is the only honest form of bodybuilding.
It's the only real, honest, authentic form of bodybuilding. Nothing outside of what you could achieve by natural means.
Just automatically, I know everyone goes, well, then what is natural? Creatine? If you synthesize a bunch of creatine and then now you're taking a scoop of creatine, like that's not natural. That's not natural happening. We don't know what natural is. Does natural mean like you can go down the line and just, you could basically walk yourself back to like the ancestral type of people. This is how our ancestors used to live and all this. And then you realize like all of this is unnatural. All the clothes I'm wearing, so it's a weird discussion that can get very difficult to unpack right away. And this is kind of what Mark Lubliner was doing with what is dangerous and what is a steroid, all of that. So
What is natural bodybuilding? You take a polygraph test, you have to be natural for 7 years. Steroid use lasts. It makes you pretty much more awesome for life. So what is natural? There is no natural bodybuilding organization. And honestly, no one would watch it. There's a natural Mr. Olympia, nobody knows about it.
I think that there's a difference between what people want to see and also what's good.
Is natural bodybuilding healthy?
Said honest.
okay, but I'm gonna pause it right there. Is natural bodybuilding healthy? I actually love this question because if you ask a natural bodybuilder right before they step on stage, how do you feel? What's your testosterone at? Sure, you look great, but you feel like dog shit. Greg talked about this in the podcast that we did together. He's like, even when I was natural, like I missed out on so much athletic ability and so much gains that could have occurred later in my life because I was dieting down to a point of, destroying myself when I could have been gaining muscle, even as a natural lifter. So this is actually a solid point from Mark.
The body positivity movement has gone too far.
What's the number one comorbidity? Obesity. We should shun fat people. We should help them lose weight.
I think you guys are so concerned about what other people are doing with their bodies. Like your definition of happiness.
Okay, pause. Just the straight libertarian from point A to point B this kid is. That's going to be his foolproof way of like defending his degeneracy. And now he's defending the body positivity movement, saying live and let live.
We could have a cocaine positive movement. As long as they're happy, let them do it. It's not up to you.
Do you pay
to
taxes?
say.
Do you know how much obesity contributes to our national debt a year?
America's such a great country. I'm gonna pay my taxes happy and not be. There's so many layers to paying taxes that getting angry about it feeding the fat people is not something that I should be concerning myself with.
Body positivity.
Yes.
Is that necessarily fatness, though?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next question.
Steroid use leads to unrealistic standards.
When I was competing in some shows, natural, I've always wanted to be Olympia, but I'm never gonna get that big because I don't want to take steroids. I competed at nationals like 3 times and I got 16th plus place. And they don't place anywhere after 16th. Damn, I fucking suck.
Been there, my brother.
Yeah, and my coach at the time was saying, if you want to do well, you gotta take some shit, bro.
Look, if you're going to do bodybuilding, that's on you 100%. You're doing a sport where it's not like, at a certain point with all, mainstream sports, you have to understand that like steroids aren't just thrown into every single athlete like immediately. Okay, I play Division I lacrosse, which is a very you're already going to be laughing at me in the comments, but I was friends with like all of the basketball athletes, soccer, like every collegiate athlete in my school. And like the likelihood that any of them were on any sort of anabolic was incredibly low. And there's a lot of schools that are at the Division I level that are at that, time in their lives that aren't on steroids. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds, and I know the internet hates to hear that. But if you look at a sport like bodybuilding, steroids is front and center. It is training eating, steroids. Those are the main things. And like you just manipulate the other ones. You could say that you do that in sport in general, but like, you know, this, if you're doing open bodybuilding or any of those things, like, yeah, if I was a coach, I'd be like, well, what do you want to do? You say, well, I want to win. You go, okay. What's your steroids look like? Because I'd want to know what your training is. I'd want to know what your food is. And then I want to know what your steroids are. And you say, oh, I'm not taking any. You go, well, you can't win. You can't. It's impossible. It's the sport. I mean, you know, there's stories of guys who have supposedly done it. I don't know if that's true or not. But, you know, for this guy to be like, you know, this leads to some sort of unrealistic standard. Your situation is so vastly different than the rest of the world. You're in a bodybuilding competition. Nobody's in bodybuilding competitions, bro. Like 99.999% of gym goers aren't in bodybuilding competitions, yet most of them look up to people who take gear like they're bodybuilders who are going to be in contests. That's like ultimately the problem.
Whether we like it or not, this shit is going mainstream. So I think the more of us that come out and talk about how to do it correctly and do it the right way, I think that's going to be best for our society moving forward.
Okay, so he's right. You know, kids are fucking themselves up, but coming out with a video saying, here's how you do steroids the right way, kids. I don't know that does it. I don't know that fixes the issue. Whatever the issue may be. I think genuinely what I was on to before is the issue. People are looking up to bodybuilders. And if you're not a bodybuilder, and when I say that, I mean like literal, like their job is in fitness to just look jacked and then compete or maybe not compete. There are guys who just go to the gym, they get some good lighting, get a good pump. They can be sponsored by supplement companies and they can be taking steroids the entire time and they don't have to fucking tell you. They don't have to tell you that. And that's who, if I'm just a regular kid and I want to get strong, I'm going to see that person and I'm going to be like, that's the standard that I have to meet. When that person is just chugging roids, bro. Like I see it at the gym that I train in here in Austin, one of the gyms that I train in. And like there are some big personalities there and they're younger and like there is no talk. It's just like, they're just like this influencer who's cool and hip and awesome. And they're just blatantly on steroids. They're just blatantly on steroids. How many people, whether it's women, you know, girls, boys, men, like how many people look at it and go, oh, that guy's on steroids, like the cap delts, the skin, all of that. Like how many people even like understand that? They don't. And so this unrealistic standard absolutely exists. And I don't think, you know, again, videos of people just being like, this is how you inject without getting the sides that are going to, you know, come up and bite you in the ass at the end. Like, why don't you teach people how to not do steroids? How to like, oh, you did steroids. You want to go, you know, change your life. Like we need more people who are steroid abusers, steroid users who are coming off.
Bodybuilding has improved my sex life.
What is this?
I teach younger men how to be more confident and talk to women. Without bodybuilding, that would have never happened.
When I moved to the US, you know, I was picked on a lot. So going to the gym is what gave me the confidence. The women looked at me much different.
This is an inarguable take, I think. Look, we're all here because the gym is life-changing, and we know that. We all know that. And I think that the words we use matter, and to just continuously talk bodybuilding. I guess we can think of it as the methodology, right? Doing a bicep curl, doing triceps extensions with a rope, whatever machines, you are doing bodybuilding, sure. But the sport of bodybuilding, the influencership of bodybuilding, I don't think that that's improving people the way that just going to the gym and just getting a good pump and getting stronger does. I know those are two separate things. It's really important that we you know, distinguish that.
When I was at my peak physique doing physique shows, about 5-6%, shredded about 190. Honestly, the most attention I actually got from other guys like, hey man, how I get like you and all this.
Okay, so I think Nicholas's point is very interesting because I resonate with it as well. I played varsity sports growing up. I didn't have that moment where like I needed the gym to raise my confidence. And I know there's a lot of people in here who that was the case for them. And so I don't want to take away from that at all. It's just that it's hard for me to relate, but I'm just going to have to say that like the gym for me did so much more for like my mental health than anything. It provided me with like a base layer of something that I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the gym. And this was after I graduated college. I wasn't playing sports, which all I knew my whole life was playing sports. And I had a pretty rough go, but I always had the gym and it always helped me in that manner. So maybe it did improve my sex life, you know, because I always had like something going for me. But yeah.
There is no such thing as too much muscle.
I think there's no such thing as too much muscle. That's like the most muscle you could get as a human being, pretty much. Like, do you feel like you have too much muscle? This is the biggest there is.
It's a little different though, because of my height being 6'1". I mean, I think there's way bigger guys in terms of like.
Okay, look, Togi, I'll be honest with you. This guy does pull out some good points. I gotta give him credit where credit is due. You know, a lot of these guys are they're gonna step forward and they're gonna say, you know, we love the classic era physique. That's what we wanted. You know, the Arnolds and the Metzgers and all of these guys, like they're the ones that we look for, and yet we now have these mass monsters that are all ugly. There's too much muscle now. But at the end of the day, they look at themselves and they go, I don't have enough muscle. You know what I mean? And Eric is one of those guys, and you know, this is not to you know, discredit Eric, but like, yeah, Togi goes, you're 280, bro. And like damn near 10% or lower body fat. I would say like 8% body fat at 280 pounds. It does not really get bigger than you unless these are IFBB pros open division. And yet you still feel like you don't have enough muscle. It's a very good point.
I mean, but if you're looking at the overall health ramifications of it, yeah, there is such thing. So from a physiologically attainable standpoint, like you trying to get as big as possible, yeah, keep trying to get bigger. You're not going to get too big. Will that distort that beautiful waist of yours? Will that distort your size? So yeah, I guess we could say there's not too much muscle. There's no way to get too much muscle, physiologically speaking.
Mm-hmm. The following question is, natural bodybuilding is the future of bodybuilding. And, you know, I've been talking about it in a way of like generalized fitness because guys, I don't watch the Olympia. I don't watch like the Arnold. I don't like keep tabs on the sport of bodybuilding. So I don't really care. And I'm not saying that in like a bad thing, like people care. So it's an interesting discussion on that side. I think that there's two sides of this. Like the future is TRT just proliferating even more. And this is for like the world, not in the bodybuilding sphere. But I also think like, you know, it would be kind of cool to have a future where like we do look up to natural people, you know, and that's not again to look down upon those that are taking gear, but like, I don't know, something happened to me very recently where like I look at people who are natural, just everyday people. And like, there's this one guy at the gym. He was like 45 years old, had like really good physique. It was obviously a natural physique, which is nothing wrong with that. And like his wife came in, they kissed each other. There were like two little girls running around and they like went off as a little family and they went in their car. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm looking up to that dude. Right? Maybe he has his problems. Maybe it's not all what it seems. But in that moment, I was like, that is the natural man that I want to be. And for me, for my future, that is the future right there. That's the shit. Okay? This next part, they say, they change it up a little bit and they say, okay, we're going to vote on who you think has the best physique. And I think that they're going to vote for the natural dude, Hussein, I think his name was. I think they're all going to vote for him to be having the best physique in here.
I'm gonna go
Josh was in fact the winner, so I just love to hear
Josh
your
is
guys'
the
thoughts
slick
on,
back hair,
obviously
the
coming
natural
from
dude.
The natural side.
I think it's because he's natural.
Well,
does that not say all that needs to be said? The guy just goes, I think it's because he's natural. It's like there is something about the very genetically gifted natural guy that looks, he's just a good looking guy that like even guys who take steroids and lift all, year round and they have great physiques for their sport of bodybuilding, they're still going to wish they were that guy. I think it's a very interesting thing because then you have to examine what it is you're actually after. What void are you filling? And can it be filled with steroids and constant training to acquire something that you'll never acquire? Because in your mind, you'll never be happy with the way that you look. Like that is genuinely what the discussion needs to be about all the time. All the time. And this is why, on this channel, like I don't focus on that. And I never really have until recently, actually, because I'm like, that's the one thing I haven't done is like tried to look shredded. So I don't know if you guys saw my last video where I said, I'm going to see if I can lose some body fat. And the way that I'm doing that is just not eating like a jackass and, doing a little bit more cardio. And we're going to see what happens. But I feel good with who I am. And I really do. And I like I said earlier, I look at the natural physique, the guy who seems like he has a pretty good work-life balance and has a good family. Like that's my goal. Anyways, that's all I have. I know it's a long video and you guys should definitely just go watch the full Jubilee video, put it on the background. Again, next time you're having a meal, put that thing on. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're new here, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. I love you guys so much and I'll see you later.